I tried that a couple of years.
Are you ready? You ready to get started?
Yeah,
I think it's time.
You go ahead and kick her off.
Give one more minute. It's till 11:59.
Yeah, we were on the mountain. We were on the side. So you've got to build this because you can't dig. I mean, we couldn't do that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Where's Jessica? Did you see Jessica? Okay, so hopefully she'll. I think we're all set. Welcome, everybody, to our Lunch and Learn program. As you can see on this, let's see here, we got to acknowledge something on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. So as you can see on the screen, this is the Master Gardeners of Roane County Lunch and Learn program. And the slide on the screen kind of summarizes who we are and what we do. It's a free educational program the second Saturday of every month. And you're invited to attend in person, which we're thrilled to see everybody here. You're also welcome to join by Zoom or Facebook or the YouTube link. So each month, these programs will be available in each of those venues. So welcome, we're glad you joined us today. And it's just one of the things that we do. And we're a group of trained volunteers associated with the University of Tennessee Extension Program. And we have a wide range of programs. And if you're interested in knowing more about us, you're welcome to talk with me. I'm Donna Bybee. And our president is Catherine Kogar. She's here. And we have several other of our members here as well, but we're glad to see all you all. So this month it's very encouraging, and we're very pleased to introduce Chuck Cruikshank. I never think I say his last name right. He's with the Valley chapter of the Tennessee Bluebird Society, and he's here to teach us about bluebirds. And the tie-in is, part of it is, what do they provide for us as gardeners, and what do they provide to us as a whole? So we're very interested to hear Chuck's presentation, and we welcome you to join us.
Okay. Thanks, Donna.
We're very interested to hear Chuck's presentation, and we welcome you to
Jessica,
join us.
do we need to change something out here? Thanks, Donna. Jessica, do we need to change something out here?
Is that better? Okay. Very good.
I can't hear her.
Are you good to go, Chuck? We need to switch.
You need to switch over.
Okay, I can do that for you.
I don't want it to vaporize. I did this the other night by myself at home. I don't want it to vaporize. At home for my own computer, and I was like, you hit the button. I did this the other night by myself at home. So it works pretty well. Well, thanks for my own inviting us here. I was like, we're glad to be here. Please don't mess up. We are part of the Valley chapter. It works pretty well. Of the Tennessee Bluebird Society. Thanks for inviting us here. And I've been involved with this. We're glad to be here. 2014, when my wife and I part of the Valley chapter to Loudoun County from Minnesota. Society. And retired. I've been involved with living here since 2014. I've been heavily involved with the Tennessee Bluebird Society County from Minnesota. This Valley chapter, we've expanded our horizons a little bit, and that's why Master Gardeners get interested. Heavily involved. We also talk about pollinator gardens and native plants. This Valley chapter, we've expanded our horizons a little bit. A few folks that are in the room, and that's why Master Gardeners get interested. Bill and Harriet Hartman are the pollinator gardens co-presidents of the Valley chapter, and so Lynn's on our board as well. And so what we're going to do today, a little bit about a background on bluebirds. Some of you may have seen this a couple years ago when we did this. So some of this will be a repeat, a background. How do I get them to come to my yard? And okay, now I've got a box. What do I do about it? You know, because it's not just plug and play. You've got to manage this box, and I'll show you. We've had some pretty good success over time. How do you prevent predators? You know, I'm going to show you some pictures of some bad guys that can get in these boxes and either eat or kill the parents and or the babies. And so how do we manage that? Because people get all excited. They've got bluebirds in the box. You know, mom builds the nest, the eggs get laid, the eggs hatch, and all of a sudden everything's gone. So how do we avoid that and a broken heart? At the end, I'm going to do some Q&A, but at the end, there's about a 12-minute video that shows the whole life cycle. So it compresses 16, 17 weeks down into 11 minutes. Okay, from building the nest to the babies going out the door. And then there's other information available. If you didn't see some of those pieces when you came in, please feel free to take those with you. Those are also on the North American Bluebird Society site as PDFs. And so you can download those if you need additional copies as you move forward. What I'm trying to do today is get you excited about bluebirds and other secondary cavity nesting birds, and hope that down the road you get involved in some of these other things, but that's to be determined by your group. You know, bluebirds are native to North America. They're very family oriented. They're not like our friends, the hummingbirds, you know, who show up together for a few seconds and then they're gone. The male stays with the female. He feeds her in the nest. They both take care of the babies as they start to feed, and they will die defending that nest. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what predators can do. But they're very devoted to each other, and they mate for life. So the reason I put this slide in here is the female actually builds the nest. They mate for life, right? The male will do the scouting, and they're doing that right now. In fact, I've got a full nest in one of my boxes at home already. The female actually builds the but he will go in and try to entice her to build a nest, but she does all the work, all right? I know that surprises a lot of you ladies here. But he will guard, and what happens is he'll either be on top of the box or on a branch, keeping an eye on what's going on, and he tries to drive off you know, anybody he needs to defend. I had a funny quick story this morning. One of the boxes I have down behind the house, I've had a female downy woodpecker roosting in there at night to stay warm. Well, this one couple that were up feeding on the deck saw that downy woodpecker go down in that box, and they were just all upset. They went down, they were fluttering all over the place. And the downy just kept sticking her head out of the hole like, I dare you to come and get me. You know, it's kind of fun to watch them this time of year. It's a fun hobby, and it can be done at every level, from, you know, one box on your property to developing a trail if you should choose to do that going forward. They're pretty birds. They're only in North America, but we have 3 different species. The ones that we have here in the east are the eastern bluebird on the top left part of that screen. The male is the one with the darker orange under his throat. The female is a little bit more muted. And then we have the mountain bluebird at the bottom. First time I saw one of these, I thought, oh, I've got an indigo bunting, but it's not. Okay, and we get them once in a while as accidentals where you get a heavy west wind. They have been seen in eastern Tennessee. The western bluebirds, not so much. You're not going to see those here because it's a long way over the mountains. Okay? And I put this slide in for kids when we do presentations, because I'll ask the kids, anybody got bluebirds in their yard? And hands go up. I go, does it look like this? Yeah, that's a blue jay. It's blue, but it's a very different bird. So the lavender color on the right-hand side of the screen is where we live, and this is where the eastern bluebirds are all year. They don't migrate away. In the other 2 places, you can see the summer range with the yellow and the winter range with the blue, where they'll migrate down, particularly Mississippi Flyway, to get out of the cold weather up north. But here we're lucky in eastern Tennessee, we've got them all year round. What happened back in the 50s and 60s is we really started losing these secondary cavity nesting birds. And they were doing bluebird populations around the country, and noticed there had been a huge change in that. So in 1936, ahead of this, they had started the bluebird movement, and one of the first trails was at Warner Park outside of Nashville, and it's still an active trail today. And so how did we do? Well, you can see what's happened to the survey up. It's an old slide to 2011, but I'm going to show you some data later from Tennessee, where that trend continues to go because of the activity of our volunteers. So what's a secondary cavity nester? Okay, we got several species that do that. This is an old snag where a woodpecker has obviously gone in and made a hole to nest. The bluebirds and these other cavity nesters can't do that. They don't have the beak and the power, but they do go in and take over these cavities over time. And we had a lot of good habitat along those hedgerows, et cetera. You know, I'm a farm kid. I worked in agriculture for 42 years. We used to have these things called wooden fence posts. And a lot of the birds would actually build a nest where the rail comes in. Guess what? We're not doing that anymore. We use steel and we use wire. And so it takes that habitat away. And then don't need to tell anybody that's been between Nashville and Knoxville over the last 5 years about urban sprawl, and the habitat's going away. So we think it's more important than ever to do the kind of activity that we do. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a woodworker to build the right kind of nest, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. But they do go in. Basically, we want a hole. You don't have to be a rocket scientist with a big cavity underneath where they can build that nest and raise the babies. So these are the good guys. Bluebirds. This is actually a picture of at my house on an old box. I've replaced it now, but you can see she's coming in with worms to feed the babies. Up on the left, we get a lot of tree swallows, particularly where you're in an open area. Fields, golf courses, etc. They like that open area. They're fly catchers. Bluebirds land on the ground to catch their prey. We get a lot of those tree swallows. Carolina chickadee to the right, tufted titmouse at the bottom, and the Carolina wren at the bottom. So those are kind of the 5 species we see in our boxes all the time. They're all good guys. They all eat bugs. They all contribute to our environment. Then we got the bad, okay? English house sparrow at the top right. You can tell the male because of that dark bib he's got under his throat. And the female is a lot lighter in color. And then over on the left is a European starling. Those are non-native species. Those are the only birds that you can take out of the nest and dispose of that nest, before, and it's a lot less emotional if you do it before the eggs are laid or they're hatched, okay? But the good news is by restricting the holes here to 1.5 inches, we get very few starlings in there because they're too big. But unfortunately, the house sparrow can get into that hole and they'll peck the mom, they'll destroy the eggs. They're just miserable little critters. You can see the female at the bottom. We had one land on the mirror of the car when we were waiting for Donna this morning. I said, he's probably looking for a French fry. You know, I call these the Walmart and the McDonald's birds. They eat all the junk all over the place. If you go over to Lowe's, I guarantee you'll see them out in the garden center flying back and forth. So here's what they do. On the left-hand side, here's a female where they've gone in and killed the female and built a nest right on top of her. You can see she's still in there. And on the right, this is a tree swallow nestling who will never make it because he's been eye-pecked. He'll never be able to hunt. And so that's why you're able to take those out. And if you take those nests out, our instructions are put that in a plastic bag and put it in the garbage. Don't just throw it on the ground because that'll call the other predators that I'm going to show you here in a second. The ugly. I'm so cute, but I raise hell with everything, including stealing the suet off your deck, right? I have to bring it in every night, otherwise I get cleaned out. The other thing they will do is they will either drop on top of the box or climb up up the post and reach in, and if you see a nest that's pulled out of the hole, that's a raccoon. Okay? I'm cute, but I'm a miserable critter. And then cats, particularly feral cats. Okay, a lot of people have house cats. They keep them in the house most of the time. I tell them, hey, it's absolutely predictable when those babies are going to fledge. So the 2 days, 3 days in there, just keep the cats in the house and you won't have a problem with your bluebirds. But yep, and believe me, they know when the babies are ready to fledge. They can hear them, they can smell them, and they're just waiting for their opportunity. And then snakes. Okay, snakes are good guys, especially these. Rat snakes, black snakes, we got a lot of names for them here in Eastern Tennessee. If you have these in your yard, be thankful because they keep copperheads out. Okay, but they really are very fond of omelets. Okay, and they can crawl almost anything. So on the left-hand side is a picture of a rat snake going up a tree. When I started researching this, I found they can actually unhinge the scales on their underside for this species, and they can actually grab right a hold of the bark of the tree. You'll see them climbing up drain pipes and downspouts and everything. You say, how in the world can they ever get up there? But it happens every day. And then you don't want to see this on the right-hand side when you go out to check your box. Okay, I guarantee you he's already eaten who's in there. And a lot of times you can tell whether it was a snake or a raccoon by the way the nest is left. And he'll just crawl in there and eat everything and come out and you go, gee, I got an empty nest, but there doesn't seem to be any damage. Yep, it's probably a rat snake. Okay, what do I do around the house? You need three things. This is very simple. You need food, you need water, and you need safety. Okay? And I'll talk about safety, but food, a lot of us birders provide mealworms, okay? And then we put suet out there. So this is the protein, this is the fat. And this is a recipe, and you've got a little recipe in a feeder that your husband built, right? Yeah, let's pass that around. You can see how you can feed that. The other thing I buy are these bluebird nuggets. Okay, they look like little pencil erasers. And particularly when the bluebirds and the titmice come up on the deck, they grab one of those and fly away to the tree to eat them. But there's very little waste. And so you can buy those at Wild Birds Unlimited, which is a sponsor, a corporate sponsor for us. But you also get them at Tractor Supply. I know Home Depot has them. I don't know about Lowe's. And you can buy them online, of course. The other thing I'd add while we're here, if you're feeding mealworms this time of year, that female needs calcium. Why does she need calcium? Eggs. Okay, anybody's ever had chickens, you know, used to feed them crushed oyster shells, okay, all ground up. And that's what she needs, particularly with bluebirds, because they'll lay up to 3 clutches. So a lot of times she'll lay 5 eggs the first time, 4 the second time, 3 the third time. And you'll see in the video where sometimes they'll actually eat their own shells after the babies hatch, but they need that calcium and they know it. So you can get this calcium carbonate, it's just limestone. Okay, I'm going back to my old feed days, and we used to put this in chicken feed all the time. But it's a calcium source. It's very fine. It's pretty inexpensive. You can buy that online. You won't find it at Walmart, but you can find it online. All right. Eggshells. If you smash those up, yep. You know they're too big. They're too big and they're normal, but just take a rolling pin and put them in a plastic bag and run a rolling pin over them and you're good to go.
So how do you provide that?
Okay, how do you provide that material is the question. So with this particular one, I make this stuff, okay? I've got the recipe here for you. I have that out on the railing on my deck, okay? And I also have a feeder. I'm gonna show you some feeders for mealworms here in a minute. But those two things go out. I mix the mealworms with a little bit of calcium. It's kind of dusty, it's kind of messy, but it seems to work pretty well. I bring them in every night because if I don't, the raccoons come and get it. All right. And I'm a Scotsman. I'm really cheap. I really don't feel like spending my money to feed the raccoons. Okay. So that's the food, water. A lot of times when I do this presentation, people say, well, I don't need bird baths and all that. I've got a creek or I've got a lake. The birds won't go there. They may dip in there quickly, but they're afraid of predators. And so particularly this time of year where we have lows in the 20s and it gets up like today, it's going to be 50, you get that skim of ice in there, you'll find if you've got open water like these ones that are heated, so you electric cords on them, all the birds will be at your house getting water, okay, because it's frozen over otherwise. So it's worth the investment. They last 10 years, and you'll always have birds out there. You need to keep them clean. If they start looking green, it's a breeding zone. I don't need to tell you what else they do besides take a bath in those bird baths. Okay, so clean that out, hit it with distilled vinegar or some bleach, light bleach, wash it thoroughly, and then put it back. It breaks that algae cycle. A bubbler, no. As long as it's heated and doesn't get that skim over the top. Yeah, I laugh my head off because I've got one that's heated and I got another one next to it that's not heated. I watch the chickadees come in there and skate right across. They think they're going to come and get a drink and it's frozen solid. And then they go over to the other one. Well, I need to start taking videos of this stuff. Oh, the last thing is safety. So we talk about placement of boxes. And you want it close to a place for the babies to escape, but you don't want it under trees because snakes and raccoons and cats can drop down out of the trees and get to the box. So you want an area along a hedgerow where when the babies fledge, they have a place to hide because they don't fly real well the first day or two, right? The way this works is they come out of the box and they flutter to the ground. It's kind of a crash landing. Mom and dad are up in the trees calling, and finally they go, oh, well, if I go up there, I probably will get fed. And so that's how they learn to get up. Well, in the meantime, that's when the cats pounce and that's when the snakes can come in, okay? And then there's a few other folks that just happen to know what's going on, okay? Now, the red-tailed hawks usually won't mess with your feeder birds. I've seen it once or twice where they'll come in and pick off something big like a mourning dove, but these smaller falcons and hawks, red-shouldered hawks, etc., I've seen them come right in and grab them off the feeder. So that's why you want that safety place so they can get into that foliage and kind of hide, and mom and dad will do what they can to protect them. Birdhouses. I get a lot of questions on birdhouses. These happen to be from wild birds. The one on the left is made of cedar. The one on the right is made from recycled soda bottles. Right? They last a long, long time. They're not cheap, but they're good boxes. We make ours out of cedar. Last a long, long time. Can they see me? They're not cheap on the camera from here. Boxes. Okay, I'm assuming that camera. We make ours out of cedar. These are the boxes we make, and there's instructions back there about. They're not cheap on the camera from here. What makes a good box? A few things we do in Eastern Tennessee that are different. First, we make them out of cedar. They last longer, right? If you make them out of pine, you get a couple, 3 years out of them. We're getting 5 and 6 years out of these. 1.5 inch hole. And we like to put these copper guards on there because that keeps the woodpeckers and other critters, squirrels, like to chew that hole open, and now the starlings can get in. So we routinely put these on, and those squirrels' teeth are tough, but they're not tougher than copper. On the bottom, and if you can see that, well, the floor in there, see how the corners are cut? And that's for 2 things. One is drainage. You know, we get those 3 inches of rain in one day, things get pretty wet. So the water can roll out and not get contained inside that nest. The other thing we do, see that venting at the top? If we were putting this up in Michigan, those sides would go all the way to the roof. But here it gets so warm, particularly in the sun, that we need the draft. We need that vent to keep the temperature down inside the box. So between the holes in the bottom and the slot at the top, that provides ventilation. It gets a draft going through there to try to keep mom and the babies cool. Inside the box, I think they can see this too well, but inside the box, can you see that screen that's in there? That's 1/4-inch hardware cloth. We started finding particularly tree swallows dead in the boxes when it got cold. And what happens is swallows are migrators. They'll be coming back shortly. You know, they get a nice warm southern wind. They come in here and roost at night. They get up, they can't find anything to eat because the bugs haven't come out yet. Okay? They crawl back in here at night and they get so weak they couldn't get out of the box. So by putting that screen in there, it gives them an opportunity to get their toenails to get out of the box. And since we've been doing that, we haven't found dead tree swallows in 3 or 4 years. So it seems to work pretty well. We like to have these built so they open from the top like this. The ones that open from the bottom are fine, except if you do that about 3 days before they fledge, you may startle them, and all of a sudden you've got a Chinese fire drill going on trying to catch baby birds on the ground to put them back in the box. It doesn't work real well. This way, when you come up to check the box, don't walk up to it like this. Hey, we had one volunteer up on the plateau that did that, and the mom hit her right in the nose. She fell over and broke her ankle. Not the bird, the lady, okay? So approach it from the side. Give it a little tap, make some noise, let her know you're there. You know, people can say, oh, they won't come back. Yes, they will. You can't drive her out of there. And then take a quick little peek. Okay, don't just rip the thing open. Because guess who might be curled up in there? Okay, so unless you're really into snakes, I always open the box like this and just kind of see what's going on first. And then if I need to do some management, I'll go ahead and do that. And then we just use a simple double-headed nail to hold that closed, and we don't have much trouble. We've got over 1,000 boxes in Tennessee right now, and they're all similar in construction. Any question on boxes? Yes?
Can you buy them like that? I mean, did you make that?
We make these.
And if I don't sell them?
We can. Yeah.
This looks like a plant sale.
Well, and we don't really want to build them to sell them, you know. Two reasons. We don't have enough time to do it. Okay. But also with Wild Birds as a sponsor, you know.
They don't like it.
Well, I don't blame them. That's their livelihood. So we do build them mostly for trails because we save quite a bit of money when we build them. And we're all volunteers. We're a 501c3. And so we're just trying to, Scotsman, just trying to save some bucks. Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
This may be stupid, but does the color of the box matter? Like if you paint it? Are they? Because I have 2 boxes. One that's natural wood, and I get 3 sets of whatever you call it for the past 4 summers. The other box, for whatever reason, my husband painted black, and nobody likes that box.
That's probably a heat issue. That's why I hesitated a bit. If you're going to paint the boxes, paint them a light color.
Okay,
Don't paint the inside.
you do that.
Because if they start to ingest that paint chips and stuff, you know, I'm not a phrenologist. What do they call those? Pathologist. I'm not a pathologist, but it can't be good for the babies to eat those chips. So it's okay to paint the outside, but paint it a light color so it reflects the heat. Pathologist. I'm not a pathologist, but it can't be good for the babies to eat those chips. So it's okay to paint the outside, but paint it a light color so it reflects. Pathologist. I'm not a pathologist, but it can't be good. We buy these from a company in Chicago. So yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that information. The name of the company is ERVA, You can buy them online.
I make a lot of used dirt bass and that stuff too.
Yeah. You probably could, but you know, when we're building them 15 and 20 at a clip, I want to go zing, zing, zing. You know, get a, you could use an old license plate. Okay, when you change out your Tennessee license plate, you just.
Got a bunch of fresh techniques to use that, or is it too slippery? I mean, I don't know if they try it inside the claw the way out.
With the question is Trex, using Trex. That's basically what those Eco-Tough boxes are. There's not a problem with the chemical makeup of Trex, but you definitely want to put
The question
that
is
screen
Trex,
inside
using Trex.
so they can get out.
That's basically
because they,
what those
you know,
Eco-Tough
with the cedar, it's
boxes
rough
are.
enough that they can get their
There's not a-
claws into it.
The other thing with tracks is it gets heavy very fast. And so you're gonna talk about mounting.
Yeah,
Okay, you'll cover that. So I just got like a bunch of linear feet on it. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of guys do it. You want to look at the width and the weight in terms of mounting. I don't know if you can see. We like to mount these on 5-foot poles. This is just 1/2-inch conduit. You can get it anywhere. It's 5 feet. And why 5 feet? Most of our volunteers are 5'2" to 5'9". Okay? You get my drift? We have a lot of ladies, you know, and it's a lot easier to manipulate it from that height. Okay? So the box just slides. Again, 1/2-inch conduit clamps on the back with some sheet metal screws to hold it. This just slides up through like this. And then in order to have that stable on the ground, I cut a short one. The ones we use are 80 inches long. It doesn't fit in the car very well to do a presentation. But this is 1/2-inch rebar. Again, available at any hardware store or any home improvement place. You drive this down in the ground about 18 to 20 inches. Okay, so it's up like this when you start, but you drive down into the ground. And then this just slides right over it when you go to mount it. Okay. And that way you've got the stability in the ground, particularly those 4-inch rain days. It's down in the ground far enough that the box won't fall over. But you can still manipulate it. You can still, you know, bend it around, try to get it square to the ground. The other thing we do is, you can see that on the camera, at the bottom, we put on a 1/2-inch conduit coupling. Okay, why do you do that? When you slide it down there, you tighten this up against the rebar, and it does two things. It keeps it from sliding down into the mud, and it keeps it from spinning around in the wind. Okay, so once you get it in place and tighten those set screws down, you're good to go. Any questions on that? Okay, I'm gonna keep plowing here.
So the problem with your laminate, it's, so you gotta somehow construct it so that you stop it from sliding down the hole. Right.
Yeah, and if you're gonna use that,
Structure fine.
you might even consider going to like 3/4 inch, you know, rebar and conduit. You got a little extra strength to it. Obviously, then everything else has got to be reconfigured to do that.
What direction does the hole have to point?
Great question. So we get this question all the time. Which way do you point the hole? Technically east, but that's because we all think we have prevailing westerly winds. You're right on the edge of the plateau, so you get a lot more wind than we do down in the valley. I tell people, point it where you can see them. Okay, people like to sit out in their breakfast nook or out on the deck with a cup of coffee, and they want to see what's going on. You know, we don't have heavy wind here. If you were in North Dakota, I'd coach you a little differently. You probably saw the blizzards they're having up there this week. Boy, I missed that.
So the one caveat to that is people that live on the water, the winds off the water oftentimes,
Yeah.
you don't want your boxes to point into the.
If you got someplace where you're in a natural wind tunnel, then you want it to point away from the wind. Okay. most of the time, when I'm out checking boxes, I got sweat dripping off me, and I wish the wind would blow, okay, because it's so warm. Question?
Do you not recommend putting them on a tree?
Thank you. Thank you. Question for you folks at home. What about a tree? What about a 4x4? What about a mailbox? My pet peeve is people putting them up on the back of a 4x4 mailbox. I call that the stairway to heaven for snakes. And Led Zeppelin's not in the room, okay? So that's why we go to the 1/2 inch. It's very hard for them to climb. Don't put Vaseline on here. I've had guys say, let's put grease or Vaseline or WD-40 on there or something. We really don't want the birds ingesting all that, and it doesn't last very long anyway. But trees, 4x4s, mailbox posts, fence posts, they're kind of a no-no because of the predators. You're just going to break your heart. You get all excited and you want to watch them fledge, and they're gone. Okay. Now, there are ways you can get around that. Again, here's some other poles that you can buy commercially. These happened again, what a surprise, from Wild Birds, but they're good poles, they're sturdy. See how thick those are when you're talking about Trex? They're a lot heavier duty than what we're using, but we're putting up 100 of these every summer. Feeders. Okay. Somebody asked about how to feed them. You can buy or build feeders like this. They keep the big birds out, but the bluebirds and the chickadees and the others can get in there to get the worms. Those worms are pretty expensive. And you don't want everybody just picking them away. Sure.
Is that plexiglass with holes?
Yes.
In it on the sides?
Yes.
And then holes in the wood on the other side?
Exactly. And they're all 1.5 inches. So this is plexiglass.
Two sides.
I have one, we bought a Tractor Supply for a regular bird feeder for, $11.
Oh, yeah.
And you turn the plexiglass upside down, takes it all the way to the bottom, and then drill the holes on the end, and you got this, so.
Yep. But this way you keep the bigger birds from just cleaning it out every half hour. The little birds can still get in there. There's other feeders too that are like a cage where the little birds can fly through, but the big birds can't get in there. I don't have a picture of that one here. But yeah, I put those arrows on there because it's hard to see those holes in the plexiglass. Now, my bluebirds aren't too smart. They don't seem to be able to figure out the little holes. The wrens and the other small birds go right in those holes like nothing. But I must have been low in the class when they Okay, predator guards. These are commercial predator guards. The one on the right is more of like a squirrel baffle. The one on the left seems to be pretty effective against snakes and raccoons. The main thing you want is that thing needs to be able to wobble. Okay, so it wobbles in the wind, or someone's trying to get a hold of it and it's moving on them. It's not solid. Okay, so here's another solution. You can see this at home. This is just vent pipe. Okay, which is different than stovepipe because the stovepipe's heavier gauge and it's a lot more expensive. This is just vent pipe with a cap. You can buy these caps, and then I just pop rivet them together. And the hardest part is getting a centered hole, without cutting your hands on your drill press when you put these on. But the way this works, you've got a coupling on here, just some kind of a clamp to keep it from sliding. This is an eye-hand coordination test. I'm close. I'm close. A little bit, but what you don't want is a snake to be able to get back between the pipe, the vent pipe. So you can see pretty close tolerance there. There's a snake to be able to get making these, but they're very effective. Okay. And for those of you at home, you can see that. Yeah, I get these pre-cut at
And for
Home
those of you
Depot.
at home, you can see that.
this you have to put together. They
Yeah,
come,
I
they
get
come like in a sheet. No, it's already pre-cut. Okay,
These
and then you
pre-cut.
buy these caps. Some people put hardware cloth on there. We've just found that these solid caps work better over time. But here's what I wanted to do. I do, because when that raccoon goes to grab it, it moves on him. Okay, if it's real solid, then he's got a lot better chance of crawling up it. And again, you want the top tight so a snake can't crawl up inside there. We only put these up when we know we have a problem. As you can imagine, with 1,000 boxes out there, we had to make 1,000 of those, and just the parts cost $20. Okay, our budget doesn't handle that well. So when we have a problem, we put them on. All right, keep drying. All right, a couple other questions I get. And you're going to see this behavior. If you start feeding birds on your deck right now, you're going to have mockingbirds, and I call them the bully robins, will show up. Now, if you're feeding in one of those boxes that Bill and I were just talking about, they can't get in there, but they'll still drive the little birds off. Okay, so I call this guy the troublemaker. This is an overshot of my house. Here's how I deal with it. Here on the back of that bottom yellow star, that's where I've got my feeding stations up on the deck. I also put out of sight on the front side of the house and to the right over in the woods, I put up another feeder where I put mealworms and suet. And those robins and the mockingbirds can't defend them all. Right? So what happens is they come and scare the little guys off, and then they go out front and say, oh, there's more out here. And then guess who comes back? Okay, because those guys can't defend all those feeding sites. Now, it's a pain in the neck, but if you don't want them to be driving your birds off your feeders all the time, to me, it's worth the effort. We let a token finch come in for that shot. So what are we trying to do with the Tennessee Bluebird Society and with our chapter here in the Valley? We really want to get the next generation involved, so we try to get involved with kids, Boy Scouts, schools, Girl Scouts. I'll show you a couple pictures in a second. We want to get them involved, and we want to collect the data to see if we're making a difference going downstream. None of us are getting any younger, so someone needs to take over the reins here at some point. So that's what we're trying to do. And then here in our chapter, when we formed this chapter 2 years ago, we wanted to expand, as I said, to go into pollinators and native plant gardens. And so that's why it seems to have appeal with master gardener groups. You can do all three or do two of those, but we got the group over in Maryville, just put up a trail last week, and now they're working on the pollinator gardens. So we're going to go back. We have a guy on our team that does the pollinator thing. He's our expert. He's going to make a presentation over there. But we want to get the nest box trails up. We put them on public land so we don't run into homeowner issues. So parks, golf courses, and usually golf course superintendents are fairly interested in being involved with this because it's good PR for them. They're helping wildlife.
Do you have to put them a certain distance apart?
Question is, how far apart should they be? And the short answer is 300 feet. Okay. Now, there are obvious exceptions to the rule. You saw the overview of my house. I got lots of trees, and I've got 3 distinct places. I have 3 boxes on my little 3/8 of an acre. Okay. But they're out of line of sight. Right? From each other. If you can get them out of line of sight, at one time I had 3 nests of bluebirds last summer. First one, I had some chickadees in one, and I had a tufted titmouse in the other, but they only lay one brood. They only have one brood of eggs. The second brood they filled up with bluebirds. So you can have them closer, but they just can't be in direct line of sight.
I have a purple martin house and I have multiple couples of bluebirds in my purple martin.
So the comment is she's got a purple martin house, so you must be near the water someplace. No? Okay.
I have a creek and I have a farm pond.
Well, that's enough. We've got purple martin houses around my property, and what I've noticed is the purple martins get along really well with the tree swallows. Okay, so you got this big hotel and it's full, but you got two different species living in there, so.
So I have two bluebird houses that were decorative to start with, and they sit right next to each other. And bluebirds have nested in both of them.
In both of them at the same time?
Which they were not.
Keep on going.
They were not intended to be nesting because they're they're decorative. But,
Yeah.
I was shocked when I got two broods at the same time.
Yeah.
So even if they're not nesting in the winter, you leave the houses up, do they still use the houses in the wintertime?
They'll roost in them at night when it gets cold.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question for the folks at home, do you leave the boxes up all year? And the answer is yes. But there's one other caveat. I told you they'll have up to 3 nests, right? She will not use the same nest twice. So after you see those birds fledge, open up the box. I tell people just give it a big old putty knife. You know, you can get these putty knives that are like 4 inches wide. Slide that in there with your Food Lion bag and take the nest out, clean it out, and then either use a 50% distilled vinegar solution or a 10% bleach solution to spray in there between broods, let it dry out, and that breaks any parasite cycles, okay? The other question we get on all the time is, oh my gosh, I got ants. I got ants in the box, so what do I do? You can use diatomaceous earth or boric acid to just lift the nest up, scrape out whatever ants you can get to, and put that stuff in there. It's in a powder form, and put the nest back. Doesn't seem to bother the bluebirds. And then take that same stuff and go around the pole at the bottom in the grass. Okay, and that way it kind of puts a barrier there so the ants don't just run right back up the pole again. So a couple of, oh, the other one is wasps. Okay, was that your question? Okay, I didn't mention this, but on all our boxes, you feel that?
Yes.
You know what it is? Yeah, it's paraffin. So every box before we put them together, we take good old, you know, that stuff your grandmother used to put on the top of canned jellies, melted it on the stove at low temperature. You can still get that. We take a bar of that and rub it on the top, and that keeps the wasps out. If you do have wasps during the summer, put on a pair of gloves, take that same putty knife, open the door, squash them, scrape them out, and then you can apply some wax to the corners, because that's really what the wax does. It doesn't let them attach. Okay, it's just slippery enough. Now the bad news is after a couple of hot summers, you need to replace it. So now you're up there rubbing inside, but we do that out on the golf courses all the time, just to keep the wasps out. They will interfere with the babies and mom.
The other thing, when you talk about roosting in the winter, or venting at the top, what I use, I have an old swim noodle, so I cut it in a 5.5-inch length, you know, in little wedges, and
Stick it up in here.
Stick it up inside, and that keeps, so when they come in to roost, you'll get maybe a half a dozen bluebirds, and they're just in there, they won't make a nest, they're just in there keeping each other warm at night. So what you're doing is you're reducing that venting so that the warmth helps stay in there, and gives them a little more durability. Bluebirds are not extremely durable to real cold weather. Chickadees, nuthatches, the others, they can survive real cold weather. But when it gets down to 10 degrees and that type of thing, bluebirds become very vulnerable to the weather. And that's when they're looking for a place to roost.
Yep. You can buy roosting boxes if you want to put those up in the winter. And inside, they're bigger, they're wider, and they have dowels that go across. So they actually have a place to hang on to. And I didn't know this till about 6 months ago. I was reading an article. There's a reaction that these birds have when it gets to a certain temperature. Their claws actually clamp down so they can fall asleep and not fall off the post. Okay, I can't tell you what the technical name is for that, but that's a reaction that happens with some of these birds. And so that's why these roosting boxes, because otherwise they could smother each other. Okay. Yes.
Have you ever used a camera, an outdoor camera to watch?
I have we have a box like this, just a little bit bigger that'll accommodate a blink, wireless camera, Wi-Fi camera. Blink, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an Amazon. And it's been quiet for a week, but suddenly this morning, I probably had 30, I have a pair of bluebirds and it's my phone is, it just, there it goes, it just echoed again. So they're in and out, in and out, in and out of our box right now.
So you just adhere it to a tree or something that obviously.
No, it fits up, we modify the box and it fits up in the shelf on the top.
Bill's our specialist. He's building boxes that are a little longer, and there's a shelf that goes right across here. Okay, and the blink, if you've ever seen these cameras, they're about 2.5 by 2.5.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is the view.
it slides in there and then it hooks up to your internet in your house, but there's a shelf in there for that camera to pick up.
Okay, I have one more question, I'm sorry.
No,
My sister lives in Minneapolis and has tried, she's jealous because I have bluebirds and she doesn't. She's having trouble with, I guess it's house sparrows or wrens overtaking the boxes or anything she can do.
there's a lot of things. We won't go into it right here, but you can buy house sparrow traps. Okay, if you know you've got house sparrows. You just go in and Google house sparrow traps, and it'll give you all the places that are available. Yep. Hey, Bill.
Swallows taking all your houses. That's what we have. It must be tree swallows. They are always down in the lake. They drink.
That's
They
a
look
tree.
very similar, actually, as far as
White
color.
breast.
They're really blue. Yeah, they're bad.
That's your environment.
I know. Well.
You can try putting another box close. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold it to one conversation so the.
They want to see that online.
Okay, how would you do that?
Just the camera's right here. Yeah.
You see it? Closer, further away? Closer? Almost touching. Ah. Okay, so that's what it looks like inside our box at my house. And that's what's going on just at 12:45 this morning, okay, just 2 minutes ago. I got that mail. Just was in there taking a piece out and I put some bark chips, actually it's hamster bait that we had around the house in last fall. If they wanted to roost, they aren't just sitting on the cold wood, they had something to sit on. Well, now the male, he's taking it out. So I think he's saying, he's gonna dress it up here pretty soon for the female.
You could also make sure there's not a snake in there because you almost blew my whole bluebird experience. The thought of opening the box and snake being in there just.
It doesn't happen very often. I want you to understand that it can happen. I don't like snakes. Yep. I've only had to take one snake out of a bluebird box in 7 years. And you know what I did it? With a big old fashioned coat hanger, the old ones you get from the dry cleaner that are metal. I opened the box with a pair of gloves and I yanked his butt out of there and slammed it up and let him go. But I don't want you falling and breaking your ankle like that lady.
We had one, when we moved into our house, it had a box on the mailbox post on the backside. And so I'm walking out there to get the mail and I see the head sticking out, looking at me. And the tail also, the head and the tail. So I approached it, I tapped it on the side and off it went. So I didn't have to clean it out. It was. But the box,
I don't do snakes. So how can you get involved if your group decides they wants to put up a trail? We'd be more than happy to walk any areas of potential for you and give you some ideas of where to do it. We also have, I call this as 101, Bluebird 101. We have another presentation, Bluebird 102. It's how to monitor and how to fill out the forms and all that stuff and how to approach the boxes. So if you get interested, we'll come back any Saturday.
Okay, let me chime in for a second before you move on. So what Chuck is talking about is we're interested in creating a Bluebird Trail here at Roane County Park, but we need volunteers. And you're going to you talk more in the second program about what that is.
Yeah,
But so
we get into the nuts and bolts on that one.
from about April to November,
August.
we need people to commit to monitoring the boxes and recording the data. So we're looking for someone to take the lead of that and work with us as the master gardeners and whoever the monitors might be. So probably a group of 4 to 6 people. So, it's not too much of a burden on one individual. And you don't have to be a master gardener to be part of
Right.
that effort. So if you're interested, talk with us and we'll get Chuck and his group to come back and help us make that happen.
Thank you. All right, just a few shots and then we'll get to the video here. We try, as I said, to get involved with kids groups. So that's another place you might be able to, we were talking about 4-H before and some other folks, here in Roane County. But these kids, you get these kids building these boxes and get involved, they get pretty psyched, okay? We've got 50 boxes out at Seven Islands Birding Park. If you haven't been out to Seven Islands, it's worth a trip. They've got 3 distinct types of birding areas there, from meadows to woods to actual maritime because of the river. It's it's about halfway between here and the Sevierville exit, right off of 40.
It's, Kodak is the town, and you know where the Bass Pro Shop is going east? on I-40? It's the exit before the Bass.
Yeah, it's one exit before the Sevierville exit. But that's an official birding park. It's the only one in the state. This happens to be the ranger and one of the guys that's been heavily involved with getting the bluebirds set up over the last few years. We actually had this is a training thing I did like 4 or 5 years ago where a lot of their volunteers were workers at the zoo who were also UT students. So again, I'm going to let's get the next generation involved. Up at Indian Mountain State Park, that's just before you go into Kentucky. Okay, there's another park up there. And we put a bunch of boxes in there. That was a joint effort between the Campbell County Schools, the shop class, and the science teachers. And they got a bunch of boxes that they did. We put 19 boxes up there. This is a shot of the kids in the shop putting some of those boxes together. We got new chapters. This is a relatively new chapter that we're involved with here. We've got a new one. It's just south of Chattanooga. And then Cumberland County, just west of here, they have a very active group the Fairfield Glade area and that part. If you know somebody in Nashville, we're looking for people in Nashville and we're looking for people over around Memphis. We just can't seem to get traction in Memphis for some reason. This is our wellness center. We put 8 new boxes up at the wellness center in Tellico Village 2 years ago. These have been very productive. A lot of tree swallows here because it's wide open, okay? So the other thing you can do sometimes, put another box a few, 50, 60 feet away. You might be able to get bluebirds into that one.
I've noticed that swallows usually get pushed in, and then after, they only do one.
They do one and then the bluebirds move in.
They don't seem to mind each other, but the swallows are kind of a nasty personality.
I'm laughing because one day my wife and I were doing a golf course trail and we drove up to where this one box that's always been very productive, and there were 4 tree swallows sitting on the top. And I said, well, pretty obvious who's in that box. And I walked over, lo and behold, it was full of bluebirds. So it goes both ways. Okay, Oak Ridge Arboretum, not too far from here. We've done a couple annual meetings up there. We've got several boxes. This is one where we got a Girl Scout troop involved. And so we took these boxes that we had built and then unscrewed them. So when the girls put them back together, the holes would line up. Okay. And we let them do the work. And they're kind of proud. When they're done, you can just see that grin from ear to ear. It makes a farm over in Friendsville. That's a new opportunity for us. It's a 200-acre farm over there. It's a wedding venue and a meeting venue where they've kind of recreated an old farmhouse. But we're probably going to have 50 boxes out there by the end of the summer. Got a new one at Tellico Dam. There was an old trail in there, and we've taken all the old ones down and put new ones up, and we've got volunteers to take care of that. All right, so how are we doing? Here's from 2015 to 2020. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, in 2015, we had 351 boxes in the state. Now, if you look over on the right-hand side, you see we got almost 1,100 boxes. And I can tell you by this time next month, it'll be well over 1,100 because of all the new boxes going in. But then look at the correlation of the birds that get fledged based on the number of boxes you have and manage them. Okay, so it's a combination, we believe, of having the extra boxes. We hear all kinds of stories about competition between birds for these boxes, but then managing, keeping them clean, keeping the predators out. And we kind of like the trend that we're seeing here. We're pretty proud of that over the last few years. Got a little more data on the one golf course. We've been doing that for over 10 years. And we have not changed the number of boxes here, but just by managing them, moving them, cleaning, et cetera, we've had a really good response there. So we got one little finch in there is the outsider. Yeah. You've seen the mad bluebird shot, right? That's on all the calendars. I took this, I thought, that's pretty close to that picture. Okay, so here are some resources. I'm going to leave that up for a second, and if you want to copy those, or we can always come back when we're done. And you know, Donna's got this already. But these are some places you can go for additional information. All that literature that we talked about before is available there. And then the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, Cornell University in New York, is another resource where you can get a lot of information about not just bluebirds, but all cavity nesting birds and others. Okay, so thank you for that. Any other questions? We're going to show the video in a second here.
Live mealworms or dried?
Okay, the question is live mealworms or dried?
Because they wouldn't even, they turned their nose at them dried.
Well, then you've got some very sophisticated birds.
I just threw them on the ground finally. Somebody.
Yeah. Live, what they would tell you, if you read the literature, is you should only feed live mealworms to babies. Okay? They are very expensive. Okay?
Where do you get them?
You can buy those at Wild Birds, and sometimes you can get them at Tractor Supply. I don't know if they've got them now. Do they? Oh, yeah.
From China, I think.
I think they'll tell you where
You can get them at Easy Troll down here too.
Hey,
That's
where?
Easy Troll, the fishing supplies.
Oh, okay.
They're real expensive, but what I did was I just got a fish tank and I put the half dozen that you get there for, I don't know, expensive, $5 to $6. And then within 2 months, the fish tank was filled with worms.
Oh, my God.
They're like rabbits.
Yeah. So dried's not a good thing.
Yeah, I feed dry ones because I don't have the patience to do that and build boxes, you know. So I feed the dry ones. I do put the calcium carbonate on them, and I buy them. I buy Wild Birds or I get them off the internet. I'm buying them 5 pounds at a time.
Yeah, me too. I do for my chickens.
Yeah.
My wild birds don't.
let me say a couple things before you play
You
the
bet.
video, okay? All right, so I want to chime in with a couple things before we play the video. And then if people need to step out or move on, we understand. So first, we want to thank Chuck and Harriet and Bill for being here today and for all this wonderful information. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we want to encourage you all to complete our evaluation form so we can just make our Lunch and Learn program better. You can leave them on your table or drop them at the back. And we're at the bottom, we ask you for ideas about future programs, what else you'd like to learn about. So we'd encourage you to do that as well. Next month, we are going to be fortunate to have one of our master gardeners, Ms. Lucy Stevenson, teach us about starting seeds indoors. So it's the right time to get your gardens off to a big jump start. So be sure and help us spread the word there. We post a flyer on Facebook and a couple other media things. If you have the opportunity, please share that to help us get the word out about our program. And then we would like to, again, thank you all for being here, and a small token of our appreciation. One of our associates or one of our cohorts has donated some beautiful artwork to us that we'd like to gift you with. The artist is Terry Chandler. He's from East Tennessee, and this is
Oh.
one of his award-winning prints.
Nice.
And this is also a signed print. It's a numbered and signed print.
Oh, so
So
I need to have cotton gloves on.
yes,
when I
yes,
touch
that's
this?
right. Handle it with, so, but anyways, we're very grateful for you to be here.
Thanks.
And we look forward to seeing the video and learning more. Again, if you're interested in participating in the Bluebird Trail, I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see if we can't make that happen in the near future.
All
So
right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're running a little long, but I
So
want, go
Catherine
ahead.
had a good point. You can also put on the eval form, if you want to be part of the Bluebird Trail, you can provide your name and contact information. We offer on the sign-in sheet, if you haven't signed in, please do so. There's a place for your email address. We do that so we can inform you about future programs. If you don't want to know, just let us know and we won't keep emailing you. Thank you.
And I think we've got some forms back here. If you're interested in getting more involved with the Valley chapter, we'd love to have you involved. We have about 3 or 4 meetings a year, and we put a newsletter together on a as needed basis. But we really enjoy, you can tell we enjoy doing this. Okay.
If you all want the plans for our box, okay, I can email them to you too.
So if you'll email it to me, I'll make it available to everybody.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Sure.
The Harriman Garden Club has a trail at the Riverfront Park in Harriman. We have 6 boxes up there, so if you want to see a trail that's already going. 2 years ago, we had a real active trail, and we had some really great results. We were pretty thrilled with it. Last year, the park was under construction, so we only had 2 boxes that were anywhere near being able to be used, because the whole good part was torn up while they redid the banks of the river. But if you want to take a walk down there sometime, and you'll see our trail, and you can just check out what we have. Chuck came over and helped us set it up.
Yeah, and then the river decided it was going to take a bigger chunk out of Harriman. But I guess I got that fixed now, so.
It's real nice now, but they took
Yeah.
away all the brush and
Yeah,
all the low growing stuff, so it's
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know how it's gonna work.
it'll come back. In this climate, it grows all year. So, okay, thanks for coming. We went a little long, but I feel it's important when you got this active a group that you answer the questions, because then they go away and go, why didn't we talk about this? So thanks for doing that. What I'm going to show you now is a video. I told you before, it's about 11 minutes long, and it goes from the first straw going into the box to the babies going out the hole. Okay, and it gets all compressed. It was done in North Carolina by the university up there, in a chapter of the National Bluebird Society. It's up there. It's not new, but the process hasn't changed. Okay. And everybody always gets a kick out of this video. I love it when we do this with kids in classes in school. there's not a single chair moving in the room. They just sit there bug-eyed watching this thing. So hopefully technology won't fail us. Just slide the mouse over and let it rip. Okay. Right there.
There's an arrow. And if you all didn't pick up earlier, Chuck has a recipe for you all to make homemade suet. So
Oh, over here. Okay, I just hit
pass it
that.
around.
Sorry.
Welcome to Bluebirds Inside the Nest Box, presented by the North Carolina Bluebird Society and the Cornell Birdhouse Network. This rare footage was taken from our 1999 North Carolina Nest Cam. It's fun, educational, and a must-see for all bluebird enthusiasts. Now, let's go inside the nest box. Here's the Nest Cam filming location, showing you how bluebirds have adapted to urban sprawl. The bluebirds in for a quick feeding, and off again. Now, have you ever wondered what goes on inside of a nest box? You're in for a real treat. Here's the start. You would think you would build from the floor up, but look at this. Here's Mom building the nest. The fluttering action is used to actually form the cup. This process takes anywhere from 2 days to a week. Now, notice how the cup is formed towards the back of the nest. Once again, there's Mom using the fluttering action to form the cup. Now the finishing touch, with the fine grasses lining the cup. There's the completed nest. Egg lay. Here's Mom laboring to lay the first egg. See how hard she's breathing? Ah, immediate relief. Look how excited she is. Look, everybody, look what I did. There's our first egg. Now 2 eggs. And 3 eggs. There's 4 eggs. And now all 5 eggs. Incubation. Mom appears to be turning the eggs with her feet. Dad brings her some food and she settles back down. Once again, she's turning the eggs. Hatch day. The second baby has just hatched. And Mom carries the eggshell out. Let's try that eggshell. This time, hey, she gets it down. Mom senses there's something getting ready to happen. Watch, you can see the egg actually crack open. Dad brings food. The baby's hatched out. Mom's an eggshell pro now. The other eggshell half. Now watch the top right egg. We've time-lapsed this so you can see the entire process. This is something that we rarely see, an egg hatching without mom around for a clear view. The beak just cracked the egg open. Now it's starting to open up. Hello, world. Look, Mom, my eggshell helmet. Day 5. The nestling's eyes are still closed. Mom's bringing full-size grasshoppers. Mom usually carries out the fecal sacs, but sometimes she eats them. Dad feeds now. The nestling that has just been fed is usually the one that produces the fecal sac. Dad brings in a cricket. Mom feeds. Hungry nestlings. Mom brings in another grasshopper, and who's hungry? You've always wondered how these birds grow so fast. Watch this. Now that's what you call a mouthful. Help, Dad. Yeah, I better help out. Can you breathe? Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure? Are you really sure? Okay, kid. Day 8. The eyes are now open and they're growing. Feeding gets more aggressive. Boy, what a difference 3 days makes. Notice how clean the box is even after 8 days. Bluebirds are very clean nest keepers. Day 10. Nestlings are really growing. Competition for food and feeding are now fast. Watch how fast this feeding is. Hungry mouse. Day 14. Almost full grown, nestlings are starting to get their speckled look with most of their feathers. Feedings are now even faster and more hungry mouse. Fledge day. 18 days old and time to leave the box. 5 nestlings. Now 4. Now 3. Mom and Dad are calling and encouraging with food from outside the box. I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. There he goes. Hey, where did he go? Looks like fun. Now 2. Now only 1 left. And finally, an empty nest. Job well done. Now for the question we get asked the most. How do I put up a nest box? Let's show you just how easy it is.
Okay. A lot of compression there.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming, both here in person and online. So thank you. Hope you'll
Thank
join
you.
us next month.
Do you know how many you had online?
Jessica will tell us. Here's an envelope for you to.
Thanks. I'm great.
We're still working on it. So that's fine.
Looks just like that.
Thank you.